The Ghostface killer can be anyone. Nobody's to be trusted, be it your closest friend or family member. Actually, it could be you. I also can't trust you. I can't trust you either, right? But you can trust me because I'm the one telling you who the Ghostface killer could be. So, trust me. But, yeah, just trust me. But that's what the killer would say, right? Yeah, but no, just trust me. I can't be the one, of course. I can't be the one. I can't. So just, fuck it. You know what? Let's talk about it. We can talk about it. Let's talk about it. This is so confusing. What is up, everybody? This is Mouthbot. Why is Scream a masterpiece? That is the question that we are going to answer in this video. There are a lot of movies that are released on a daily basis, but the ones that captivate the audience to the extent of them no longer being movies, but experiences, are very limited. We are talking about Money Heist, Squid Game, Ghostbusters, and even the one and only. Hello, who is this?
Who are you trying to reach?
What number is this?
What number are you trying to reach?
I don't know.
Well, I think you have the wrong number.
Do I?
You can overlook the movie and just call it another psychological horror comedy just released for some cash grab. And of course, if it didn't make money, they wouldn't be releasing more parts. Because even in Scream 4, they were contemplating on whether to release Scream 5 because of the low sales. Yeah, but leaving that aside, leaving the money thing aside, of course, it has to make money for it to continue. But leaving the money thing aside, you're missing the point if you think it's all about the money. You're actually missing the point. You can't just call this a horror, a psychological slasher. No, it's a puzzle game that we, the audience, have to figure out in collaboration with the protagonists, right? So this is a movie whereby you're seated and you're not being told what is happening, but you are actually trying to figure out what is likely to happen. I don't know if you're getting the point, right? So this is the vibe that I get whenever I'm watching Scream, is that, yes, I'm watching to see what is next, but at the same point trying to figure out what is likely to be next. You get the point? So now, let's answer the question. Why is Scream a masterpiece? This is so confusing. Point number one, it's a movie that knows that it's a movie. So, Scream is a movie that actually knows that it's a movie and that plays with the rules and conventions of the genre.
I don't get it. Okay. It's like the Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone.
A movie within a movie. I get that. But it's illogical. It begs the question that if the beginning of Stab 7 is Stab 6, then is the beginning of Stab 6 Stab 5? And if so, what is Stab 4 about?
You're overthinking it.
Am I, or did whoever make it just underthink it? There's a reason I don't watch these movies.
And this is actually interesting, is that it plays with this aspect or with this concept in a very clever way. In a way that it tells us that it's in a movie without telling us that it's in a movie. I don't know if you're getting it, right? It plays it in a way that is very clever and I think interesting, most especially for a movie that was released in the 1990s, right? It was a really interesting aspect.
Think of me as your director. You're in my movie. You got a fun part, so don't blow it.
What movie?
Same one Marnie's in, only her part got cut way back. But you're the dumb blonde with the big tits. We'll have some fun with you before you die.
That's not funny.
This isn't a comedy, it's a horror film. People live, people die, and you'd better start running.
This movie actually elaborates how horror movies could be applied in real life, which makes it even scary in context, showing us that the Scream events could potentially happen to anyone. And many people may think that Scream wasn't scary, Scream wasn't what, but if you try to think about it when you are alone and just try to meditate about this aspect, you realize that this movie was actually scary in a way that Just imagine, let me even give you an example, a scenario of the first scene when Drew Barrymore, who portrayed Casey Baker, was just having a normal life in the house, at night, making popcorn, and she was just going to watch a movie. Then all of a sudden, she received a call from this stranger who she assumed that it was a wrong number, and only to realize that she's going to die in just a few minutes. So now just imagine that introductory scene is that same scenario that happened to Casey Baker could happen to anyone at any time, right? And even what makes that scene more scary is that Kevin Williamson, when he was writing the phone call scene, is that he based it on an actual event that actually happened, where some girl was killed after getting an anonymous call. So just imagine that. That makes the whole thing scary in a way that what happened could actually happen to us at any time. It's not like these other movies like Halloween, Freddy Krueger also. Those movies are unlikely to happen because you all know it's unlikely for such a character to appear to you in real life. Or like Chucky, it's unlikely for a doll to come and kill you, right? But now Scream actually made it in a way that the killer in Scream could actually kill you in real life. So this made the whole scenario interesting. And then going back to the point is that the movie aspect is very clever in a way that the characters in the movie don't know that they're in a movie, but think that the events happening to them are real, but the villain or the villains are using horror movie tropes to attack them. So that's actually interesting. That's why for me, I completely disagree with people who say that Scream is a self-aware movie, that these people actually know that they're in that they're in a movie and stuff. I don't think, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that's what is happening in Scream. What is actually happening in Scream is that characters in Scream actually believe that what is happening to them is actually happening to them. They just don't think that it's a form of a movie that they are in. But the killer is using movie tropes to kill them, because it was even later revealed that Billy Loomis loves horror movies. He's a fan of horror movies, right? So now he was using horror movies that he's a fan of to kill these people. So that's what made the whole thing interesting, is that it made them appear as if they were in a movie. But in actual sense, for the characters within the movie, they actually didn't know that they were in a movie. What they knew is that they were being killed using sequences of the prior movies. You get the point? This whole concept of a movie, knowing that it's a movie, is very clever. They did it in a very, very clever way.
You forgot the first rule of remakes, Jill. Don't fuck with the original.
Point number 2. It makes fun of itself. So Scream is a movie that makes fun of itself while also being scary and suspenseful. Yeah, for the scary part, many people may find it debatable, depending on who you ask. I think this is one of the very few things that made it very unique, most especially in the 1990s, right? And this is one of the reasons why I still get back to it. I just want to know what else it's going to make fun of and how it's going to do it, right? What's interesting is that, most especially in the newer parts, is that it actually made fun of the very thing that it did. For example, in Scream 5, which is a recall. And what is a recall? A recall is simply a mixture of a reboot and a sequel. So, and what a recall actually does is that it brings out legacy or old characters who were once hot in the previous parts. They bring them into these newer parts to come and support the new leads, while also try to bring in the old fan base, and most of the time they do it if at all a franchise is dying out. So in that process, a recall, it brings out legacy characters to come and save the franchise.
Please speak English.
Okay, remember the Stab movie that came out last year?
Oh, yeah, the one the Knives Out guy directed, right? You know, I actually really liked that one.
Of course you did. You have terrible taste.
I hate you.
The point is, the hardcore Stab fans hated it. You go on 4chan and Reddit. All they're talking about is how Stab 8 pissed on their childhoods, how they crammed in social commentary just to make it elevated, how the main character is a Mary Sue.
What's a Mary Sue?
You really don't want to know.
What's wrong with elevated horror? I mean, Jordan Peele fucking rules.
Obviously, but that's not Stab. Real stab movies are meta slasher whodunits, full stop.
Come on, it's just a movie.
No, it's not. To some people, the original is their favorite thing in the world. The movie that made them love horror, that mom or dad showed them when they were 10, that bonded them together. And God help anyone who slightly fucks with that special memory, who makes a movie they think disrespects it. It sounds like our killer is writing his own version of Stab 8, but doing it as a requel.
Which is?
See, you can't just reboot a franchise from scratch anymore. The fans won't stand for it. Black Christmas, Child's Play, Flatliners, that shit doesn't work. But you can't just do a straight sequel either. You gotta build something new, but not too new, or the internet goes bug fucking nuts. It's gotta be part of an ongoing storyline, even if the story shouldn't have been ongoing in the first place. New main characters, yes, but supported by and related to legacy characters. Not quite a reboot, not quite a sequel, like the new Halloween, Saw, Terminator, Jurassic Park, Ghostbusters, fuck, even Star Wars. It always goes back to the original.
So these people actually did that very clever thing in a way of bringing back the old characters, but not trying to make it very obvious. And this is why I love Scream, is that the way they do it without making it appear to be overdone is very, very interesting. And this is the same reason why I'm likely to watch the upcoming Deadpool and Wolverine. And that's why I'm rooting for it. It's because it's also making fun of the MCU.
Whoa. Is that supposed to be scary? Pegging isn't new for me, friendo, but it is for Disney.
The MCU, yet it's being produced by Marvel. So it's actually a very interesting aspect. And point number 3, it challenges the audience to be smarter than the characters. So Scream is a movie that challenges the viewers to be smarter than the characters, while also making sure that we care about them. When you try to think about Scream on the surface level, it's very generic. Killer on the loose, find out who the killer is, kill the killer before he or she kills us, and that is it. But why do we keep coming back to this generic movie every time they release a new part? It's because whenever we sit down to watch this movie, we immediately put on our detective hats to figure out the killer before the characters do. Fun fact, I've never guessed the actual killer for all the 6 Scream movies, not even close. Maybe I may try in this 7th one, I don't know, but that makes even the whole aspect interesting, that these people are pretty good at providing false clues, and they do it in a very non-obvious ways, that they provide false clues whereby it's like they make it in a way that you as the audience, you suspect a character and you think it's your instinct, yet in actual sense the writers and the director made sure that you think about certain characters in order to lead you to false leads. And this is one thing that I've fallen for in all ways. Every time that I was watching Scream, I thought maybe this time I'm going to be smarter, only to realize that, bro, these people have hit me off guard. The people you least expect are the people that you realize they are the killers, and least expecting, not in a way that the ones that you don't actually, the ones that are innocent or what, It's like all about the characters that you highly suspect based on the way they behave, talk, interact. You may likely suspect them compared to other characters. So it makes the whole aspect interesting, right? Just like, I would even give you an example. Was it in which Scream? Was it, I think, Scream 5 or Scream 6? No, I think it was Scream 6, whereby I thought Campy Reed, yeah, I think it's Campy Reed. I thought she was the killer. And I don't know, but there's that immediate instinct that came into me. I realized I think she could be the killer, because there could be a better reason for her being the killer. Only to realize that not even close. You get the point. So it's actually interesting. Yeah, but anyway, we are always eager to find out who the killer is and what their motive is likely to be this time, because what's interesting is that despite the killers playing out a movie on our characters, they always have deeper personal motives behind them, right? And the motives keep shifting each and every time, right? And that makes it interesting. And the failure of figuring out who the killer is just tells us how dumb we humans can be after even being given all the required information for survival. You get the point? Yeah, and the dump in the movie characters known to the audience. Of course, maybe I'm the stupid one here, but if there is anyone who has guessed any killer in any of the Scream movies, you can let me know in the comment section.
Dewey had to die to make it real. To show that this wasn't just some bullshit, cash-in, run-of-the-mill sequel. Because our movie has fucking stakes! Because anyone can die in a requel.
Point 4, it intentionally breaks the rules and makes us aware that it's doing so. One of the most memorable characters in Scream is Randy Mix, and actually is one of my favorite characters, and so that's why he's one of the characters that I actually felt bad when they killed him, because I felt like, why? How would you kill such an important character in the genre? I think he was the funniest guy. Him and Stu Macha were the funniest guys in the whole Scream franchise, like the whole of it from Scream 1 to 6. Of course, there are a bunch of other characters, but those were my favorite. And so, going back to the point where was I? I was saying about the breaking of the rules. So this guy, Randy Mix, was played by Jamie Kennedy, who is a horror movie geek and a friend of Sydney. So what he does is that he explains the rules of horror movies to other characters and to us. So Randy says that there are 3 main rules that one must follow in order to survive a horror movie. 1,
you can never have sex. Big no-no! Big no-no!
Dead man.
Sex equals death, okay? Number 2, you can never drink or do drugs.
No. The sin factor. It's an extension of number 1. And 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back.
I'm getting another beer. You want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back.
You see, you push the laws and you end up dead. Okay, I'll see you in the kitchen with a knife.
The thing is actually interesting is that they intentionally tell us that these are the rules. And so, why is this a clever move? This is a clever move in a way that, so once they tell us that these are the rules to follow in order to survive a horror movie, since we know the killer is using horror movies to kill them, so that means the killer is likely to know the rules of horror movies. And at that point, you would even be right if you suspected Randy to be the killer, because anyone could be the killer at this point, right? So in that process, since we know the rules, so now every person that broke the rules would be at a risk of dying. And what was interesting is that he was explaining the rules at a house party where they were all drunk. So in that process, they had already broken one rule. Already broken. Even he himself, who was telling them the rules, was actually drinking and was drunk. Yeah, so it made the whole thing interesting. And then even Sydney and Billy, who aren't drinking, they went to the room and had sex. So they also another second rule were broken. So literally, there was no character that was safe. Maybe the safe characters you would say would be Gail Weathers and Dewey, because they were just outside watching the kids. Maybe you would say they were the safe ones, and it turned out to be true. This whole aspect was really clever if you just think about it, is that they set these rules, and every person that broke them, we actually got worried. Point 5, it's made for horror lovers. So this is where Scream gets really interesting, as it plays with the idea of who the killer is and why he or she is doing this. Scream is a mystery, a puzzle that invites the audience to participate and to guess the identity and the motive of the killer. Scream is also a commentary on the effects of horror movies on society and on the psychology of the killer and the victims. Right? Scream asks us, why do we watch horror movies? What do they say about us? How do they influence us? Or like what Billy Loomis said, do they create cycles or they make cycles more creative?
You've seen one too many.
Nah, Sid, don't you blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
Right? So this aspect, Scream Scream, what makes Scream interesting is that this was a movie that was actually made for horror lovers, people who actually loved horrors and actually cared about horrors. So it was more of like a documentary about horrors, because you realize that it paid homage to a bunch of prior horror movies at that time. It paid homage to Halloween, it made homage to Friday the 13th, it paid homage to which other horror movie, Psycho, and very many. And actually, if you are to even to recall, is that Wes Craven, who was the director of that movie, he actually made a cameo appearance in the movie as Freddy the janitor. For those who didn't actually realize, you can go and watch that scene as Freddy the janitor, right? Giving homage to Freddy Krueger. You get the point, right? So this movie was actually like almost a documentary to horror lovers, that this is what is happening in horror movies, though of course in a very satirical way, comedic and interesting way. It just didn't plainly just display the things. It's that it actually did it in a very clever way, because at that time in 1990s, horror movies had started dying out. So now, for Scream to come out at this time, it actually proved the concept that horror movies could still be loved, horror movies still have audiences, and actually even big name characters could also feature in horror movies. For example, like the appearance of Drew Barrymore, who was a star, right? For her appearing in the Scream movie actually proved the point that even big characters can appear in horror movies. So the whole aspect was actually really clever.
Sorry, Mom, fuck you. Enjoy that torch.
Okay, that is it, guys. If you have liked this video, then a sub to this channel won't hurt at all, because all we talk about is movies on this platform. For that reason, click on this video to watch the sequel to this episode. And you know what? Let's talk about it, because I know you're listening. Let's talk about it. We can talk about it.